number 1, no names. Rule number 2, never change the deal. Rule number 3, never open the package. Rule number 4, if you're going to do another transporter, please use Jason Statham. What's up, incredible ones? How'd you like my transporter impression? Glad to hear it. Glad I can bring the house down. Okay, first things first. I've said it once, I'll say it again, you heard it before. The reason I have not been recording videos lately is because of summer work. I know you're probably thinking, oh yeah, he's just too lazy. Well, tell that to 2 honors English papers and an Algebra 2 packet. Sorry, it fell. But here's the proof. I just finished all that today. I'm officially done. School starts on Tuesday, and hell kicks off when I open the door. So let's just get into it. I'm gonna stretch for this one because I got a lot to say. Today I'm gonna be reviewing the highly anticipated, not really anticipated, I wasn't even sure I was gonna see this, Transporter Refueled. This is a reboot of the Transporter series, the original one starring, who is now a household name, Jason Statham. You may have heard of him. He's the guy in Expendables 1, Expendables 2, Expendables 3, anything with a British guy kicking ass, Crank. Oh, what's that little independent franchise called? He was just in their last movie. Yeah, Fast and Furious 7. Anyway, that was a joke. Everyone knows Fast and Furious is my favorite saga. But anyway, let's get into it. Jason Statham's Transporter series. First noticeable thing, Jason Statham isn't in this movie. Not one bit. I even stayed till a little bit after the credits. He didn't produce it, he didn't co-write it, nothing. It stars newcomer Ed Skrein, I believe that's his name, another British actor. His acting was good, I will give him that, but it just didn't give me that old school Transporter feel that I love. Like when I pop in my disc of Transporter 3, I immediately get it, even though I know how it ends every single way. But it was just something about it, the old Transporters, that made them so good and so great quality. But this one, I didn't really appreciate it that much. But it was entertaining, I will give it that. It did have me chuckling at some moments because the Transporter in this one is still charming. Where it lost me was the story and how it filmed its fight scenes to be bigger than what it intended. Basically what I'm saying is it tried a bit too hard. So let's get into it. The story is very, very confusing at first because it's all over the place. It starts off with a quick flashback, I would say, to, I believe it's Berlin. I literally just got the movie about 50 minutes ago and I don't even remember much of it, but yeah. Somewhere in Europe, 1995, it shows a pretty graphic scene of some people getting gunned down by the main villain, and he's basically telling everyone to stay off his turf. He runs a prostitution ring down here, and it's kind of showing him the villain's origins. It's kind of showing the origins of the villain to the entire crowd, and how some people relate to it later on. And then it fast forwards 15 years later, from 95 to 2010. That's another thing I found out. I don't know why they didn't just shoot it in this year, unless that was a goof they did. But yeah, it starts in 95, and then it fast forwards 15 years later. First shot of Frank Martin's Audi. That's the first thing you see, followed by the title credits. And of course, some dumbasses trying to steal his car. I will say the car does look better though. They obviously got a new Audi model because they had the money for it, and the new S8 came out this year, or a little bit late into last year, but yeah, it's a cool fucking car. Cool fucking car. And of course, he comes in all charming, not wanting a fight. He's just telling him, move out the way before you get hurt. They don't listen. The guy threatens him in a really thick Bosnian accent. It's kind of scary. Everything kind of sounds like out the way, if you catch my drift. But anyway, it doesn't work. They get the shit kicked out of him, and of course, he ends up being late to his appointment, which you all know the Transporter hates. But then it takes a turn for the odd. In the trailer, they said his dad was going to be a pretty big part of the movie, and he was. His dad is played by Ray Stevenson. Some of you may know him, some of you may not. Only thing is, when I heard Ray Stevenson, I automatically thought of Punisher Warzone. And when he first got his on-screen appearance, he looked nothing like that. He looked like a dad. He had a pot belly, well, kind of a pot belly, gray hair all over, and he just sounded different. But anyway, yeah, Ray Stevenson plays his dad, who was recently retired, trying to settle down with a nice wine and just chill. And all of a sudden, he gets kidnapped. Blah blah blah, yak yak yak. You probably aren't going to see the movie, so this isn't really spoiling. But his kidnapping leads Frank to do another job for a group of three girls. Wind that back. Yeah, and they basically use his dad as collateral, saying, do this for us or your dad dies. They do the job, and you think, oh, how do you do? Same transporter motive, they do the job goes well, Frank has sex with the girls, yada yada yada. Everything that happens in every other transporter movie. But the guy from the 95 flashback returns, and he is badder than ever. He is a prostitution kingpin, and now he is after Frank because he knows the girls who were committing the robberies, and the robberies they committed were his money, so they're kind of screwed. The story, like I said, was all over the place. It did take me a minute to grasp it personally. I saw my father, and he kind of explained it to me. He was like, oh, this is happening, and this is happening, and it kind of tuned me onto it. But all in all, it was okay. I would have to give it, if I had to give it a rating, I would give it a 5 out of 10. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't best either. Because me, I'm a big fan of nostalgia, and I immediately, once I heard they were making a Transporter Refueled, I immediately thought Jason Statham back in the suit and tie, kicking ass for one last job. But then I realized Transporter 3 ended on a retirement note. He was on his fishing boat in the French Riviera with his beautiful wife or girlfriend, I believe, and his friend Inspector Tarconi. They were fishing, they were chilling, and he didn't get any mysterious phone calls saying they needed a transporter, and there was no after credit scene that I'm aware of. If so, they would have released it by now, because that came out in 2010. But of course, I had to put two and two together and figured, oh, they are not doing this with Jason Statham anymore. Then when I found out they were rebooting it, I was a little bit less excited, because I always feel reboots ruin a franchise. Take Fantastic Four, for example. That was such a disappointment. Ugh. Give a moment of silence for Fantastic Four. Okay. Anyway, reboots ruin franchises. That's all I have to say. And I will touch on the fact that they were trying way too hard. Everyone knows the Transporter for a cool guy, dressed well, English gentleman, kicks ass, drives a car like nobody's business, and occasionally slays the poon. But they were trying that way too hard. Like, he was trying to be too charming. Like, everything out of his mouth was a one-liner. Like, every time he said something, it was like they wanted us to laugh, and I did laugh at a lot of them. Like, I did chuckle a lot, but it just wasn't catching my eye. One, because Jason Statham never joked too much, and that's what kind of made his jokes rich. Like, he would always have that silent but deadly look, no fart joke intended, a silent but deadly look, and then he makes that joke, and you're like, oh, Jason Statham has a sense of humor. Well, this guy shows out the gate like, yeah, I have a sense of humor, and I'm gonna make you laugh. That's not what you're here for. You're here to kick ass and slay poon. Get that straight. Second off, the fight scenes. Honestly, for all my film and movie buffs out there that know like all about behind the scenes and certain directors, if you want to know what you're getting into with the fight scenes look like they were directed by James Wan. If you know who that is and you know what movies he's directed, you know what I'm kind of talking about, and that's the tone I got. I didn't know who this was directed by, I just knew it was probably written or co-written by Luc Besson. He co-wrote and wrote the original three, and he did the Taken series, which I'm not a big fan of, but they do have great action. And I figured that if he had something to do with it, the action would be similar to the first three, and they weren't at all. It had kind of a Fast and Furious vibe to me, all the action scenes, with the fighting, down to the car chases, and some of the slow-mo scenes, and some of the dramatic scenes they tried to do. It was all very derivative. Like, it wasn't original at all. Like, reboots are supposed to have a tad bit of originality, but sticking to the original story. Like, if you're gonna reboot the Transporter series, change it up a bit. And they did do that. Like, for instance, adding his father into it. In the original 3, it's not even mentioned if his parents are alive. We just kind of assume they're dead and he's on his own. But this one, straight up the gate, like I said, his father is mentioned. Frank Martin Sr., he's actually Frank Martin Jr., the transporter. And then they go back into his past. His mother died and is buried in England. Father's retiring, yada yada yada, and all of that. So that change-up was pleasing. But yeah, it was all very derivative. Like, it didn't seem original to me at all. So honestly, the Transporter Refueled, entertaining, but it's not worth going to the movies for. If anything, I would just wait until it comes out on DVD or one of those, sorry I burped, one of those movie streaming websites. I don't know any, because, you know, they're illegal, xmovies8.org, but anyway, yeah, just wait your turn, because the Transporter will come around again. And no, that was not a sequel pun, because I don't know if they're making a sequel, and frankly, I hope they don't, because this was a bit off to me. It just wasn't hitting all the buttons. Like, when I go to see a Transporter flick, I want to be thrilled out of my mind, and I really wasn't for this. No hard feelings against Luc Besson or the director Camille something another that sounds French. I will look that up eventually. Probably won't go in this video though, but it was an entertaining film. If what you did was to make an entertaining action flick, you did that. But if what you attempted to do was shut out the old Transporters and create a whole new saga, go back to the drawing board, because you absolutely did not do that. Jason Statham's is and always will be the best Transporters. Unless you're trying to make a Transporter Refueled 2, then you better step it up and get a way bigger budget. Alright guys, that is it for my first ever This Just In movie review. This Just In. Knee slapper. I am so sorry for the corny jokes. I'm trying to do something different on the channel. But anyway, yeah, that is it. Tell me how you like the reviews. I'm going to try and keep doing these a lot more often. The title of This Just In is not just a pun. I will try and do the movie reviews directly after I come from the theater or see it on DVD or something after I see the movie, so the review is real genuine and fresh, because the opening day for Transporter is today actually, but it was released last night and it bulked up a good amount of money, so I figured I'd see it and give you this review tonight. And yeah, that was it. Alright guys, I'm Justin, this is the Just Incredible Network, and I will see you